Before we begin, let me introduce myself and give you some background information about me. I'm Carrie Thomas. I've been photographing infants, children, and teenagers for 7 years. If you'd like to see my work, you can visit ktomasphotography.com. I've also shot weddings, other events, family portraits, engagement sessions, and all different types of sessions, but there's nothing closer to my heart than photographing children. They grow and change so quickly. I know how important it is to every mom to remember the way that their children were at each stage of their life. What actually got me interested in photography was looking at my own family's picture albums. My dad was a hobby photographer and took some beautiful pictures with his 35mm camera. Some of the moments he captured I don't even remember now, and it's so nice to have those pictures to keep safe those memories. That's when I realized I wanted to help families keep their memories safe too. And now as a mom, I appreciate even more the value of those memories. I have a 10-month-old little guy and a little girl arriving here soon. So I'm only at the beginning stages of motherhood, but this first year has gone by so quickly I don't want to forget any of it. And I'm guilty of taking pictures on almost a daily basis. Okay, so that's enough about me. Let's get going. All right, today we are going to go over tips to help you begin your photographic ventures with your children. First, it's good to know when it's best to book a session with a professional. Even as a professional photographer myself, I know I have limits when it comes to taking pictures of my own family. I do not recommend doing everything yourself all of the time. So let's go over the types of images I would leave to the pros. Newborn sessions. So I'm not saying you shouldn't take pictures of your newborn in general, but if you're wanting to have a beautiful collection of images of your new little one, there are very talented photographers who have years of experience capturing those gorgeous shots. Newborn sessions can be difficult and stressful, especially for a mom who is still recovering from labor. So I still took images of my little one when we were still at the hospital while I was just sitting in my bed still. And those are some of my favorite pictures, but I did not do a full-blown newborn session with him. There's so much detail and time that goes into a newborn session that it's just best to let someone else take care of it. Plus, it gives moms and dads a much-needed space of relaxing time. Family portraits. I'm talking about everyone getting dressed up and needing that much-needed updated photo of the family. This can be an extremely stressful session if you're trying to get everyone set up and be the photographer as well. We may be super moms, but sometimes that means knowing when to call in the help. Your family photographer will know how to keep everyone happy, smiling, and on the same page. So make sure you book your photographer for these kinds of sessions. Senior portraits. So your senior is just one person, and I know you can probably easily photograph one person. But let's face it, teenagers can be difficult, especially with their moms. So sometimes it's best to have someone else do their portraits. It's also such a huge milestone that it would be best to pay a professional for this. So those are the 3 main types of sessions I recommend leaving to the professional. There could be more added to this list, but as a good rule of thumb, it would be best to ask yourself, how big of a milestone is it? If it's such a special moment that you don't want any mess-ups, you want flawless images, then definitely book with your family's photographer. But if you are truly enjoying photographing your children and you're taking the steps to learn how to enhance your skills, then you'll learn your limits yourself and you'll know when to call in a professional and when it's okay to try yourself. All right, that being said, there are so many moments where a photographer can't be there to capture those beautiful, special milestones. It doesn't mean you can't have the skill to take quality images of your children yourself. So the first big stage is obviously their first year. It's a fast-changing year of their life, and so much happens in the blink of an eye. Your baby will only have their first for one time, and they're fun, exciting memories to capture. I'm real quickly going to go over a usual list of milestones for baby's first year that can easily be captured at home. Even if you miss photographing their very first time doing it, just having that milestone captured will have your future self thanking you. So real quickly, Raised head on tummy, smiling, laughing, grabbing toes while on their back, rolling. You can do this with a 1, 2, 3 separate shots, kind of a collage. Pushing their chest off the ground while on their tummy. In a crawling position, crawling. That would also be another 1, 2, 3 kind of shot. Holding and grabbing toys, sitting up, waving, eating food, trying new foods. I really love the disgusted face look. That might make me a horrible mom, but it's adorable. Pinching their food with their fingers, that's super cute too. Standing, taking their first steps, walking. And I know sleeping's not a milestone, but they're so precious when they're sleeping. You definitely need to capture that. So your little ones might be past the whole first year and on to more adventurous stages of their life. The toddler to 5-year stage is one of my favorite times. They discover so much about the world and themselves. It's just fun to watch them. This is a great stage to capture connection moments with your children and other family members. It could be their siblings with them, their dad, you, grandparents, their friends, even their pets. The smiles and laughs at this stage are the most contagious, and there are so many simple seeming moments you can preserve. Capture moments where they're helping you in the kitchen, making Valentine's Day cards, and even just playing in their room by themselves. These are all adorable moments you will find yourself treasuring later on. If there is one kind of photograph I do not like, it would be your standard yearly school picture. I love photographing individuality. If you have multiple children, you know just how unique each one is, and their personality is part of who they are. School photos mask that individuality. I'm always telling parents not to waste their money on school photos because it says nothing about their child. In my opinion, the only thing a school photo is good for is seeing the physical change in a child from year to year. But it doesn't really capture personality change. Maybe your daughter 1 year loves Barbie dolls, pink and bows, but the next year she starts playing soccer and her new favorite color is orange. Gone are the bows and the Barbie dolls. A school photograph doesn't show that personality change, but that is something you can definitely capture at home. This is also the stage of life where you will be attending countless school functions that they are participating in. It can get a little overwhelming, but I know I personally love looking back at these photos and remembering the songs I sang or the plays I participated in. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, senior portraits are the types of sessions you want to leave in the hands of a professional. But there are a lot of special memories that you can still photograph in the last 4 years of school. Not only will you appreciate it, but in time they'll learn to appreciate it too. They might complain about it now, but eventually they'll see the value of what you're doing. Capturing moments of them with their friends, their younger siblings, and any event they are in. These are the years where they're becoming more solid in their identity, and whatever talents and skills they possess really shine through during these last 4 years, so make sure you capture it. We live in such a wonderful time where technology allows us to capture those memories simply using the camera on our phone. But technology has also allowed us to afford digital SLR cameras for a fraction of the price they used to cost like 10 years ago. Camera phones are limited in how they capture images, and I truly feel that our families deserve much more. Many families, and possibly yours included, owns a DSLR camera. Maybe you use it all of the time on preset automatic settings, or maybe it's collecting dust on a shelf because you're unsure of how to even begin using it. Or you could use it quite often and are starting to get comfortable on manual settings, but you don't have a solid handle on it yet. I encourage you to take the time to learn more about how your camera works so you can begin to take quality images of your family. So this brings me to the first key of taking stunning images of your family: equipping yourself. When I say equipping yourself, I mean learning everything you can about your DSLR camera so you can take it off of automatic and start creating beautiful quality images. You can't take better images without learning the skills necessary to become a better photographer. Even if you're a beginner, you will still see a very visible change in the images you capture. There's a big difference between snapshots and dedicated shots. The second key to taking stunning images of your children is finding your style. Once you have learned how to use your camera, you'll want to begin developing and discovering your personal style of shooting. Every photographer, whether they're beginner or advanced, does not take a photograph the same way. Just like we all have our own style and voice when we're writing, the same is true in the art of photography. The final key is taking action. So this is not just applying what you learn, but also knowing how to be organized about photo ideas and sessions with your children. When to read the mood of your children and know when it's a good or bad day to be taking photographs. Okay, so let's go over some tips and tricks for taking pictures of your children in an outdoor setting. Let me just mention here that even if you don't have a DSLR camera yet, you can still use these tips with your point and shoot camera, but you will be very limited to what you are in control of, which essentially limits the quality of your image. I recommend eventually investing in a DSLR camera. Even the simplest beginner models are better than a point and shoot. So no matter what type of camera you use, I suggest something that has a zoom-capable lens. With little ones running around, it's nice to have the option to zoom out while capturing them running across a field, or to zoom in a special moment when you don't want to approach and distract them, but you still want to capture what they're doing. So on your outing, you want to bring these essentials: an umbrella, extra battery for your camera just in case, a reflector. I know most of you don't have a reflector, but I'll show you how to make a simple reflector that can help you control and direct light. An external flash, or the flash on your camera works if you don't have one, and any other lenses if you have the time and if you have any. Before you even venture out, it's a good idea to know what kind of natural light you will be dealing with that day. Overcast or partly cloudy days are really the better days over super sunny days. Also, the time of day will leave you with different lighting as well. If you can't avoid a bright sunny day, try going out in the early morning or evening when the sun is low and isn't as impactful as at high noon. So when possible, shoot when your lighting is nice and even and doesn't leave harsh shadows. It'll make it much easier and a more fun experience. While bright days might seem like the best option, they aren't. They leave harsh, uneven lighting on the faces of your subject, and it can create finding the right exposure rather difficult if the area you are shooting in has a mix of hard light and shaded areas. Your camera can't compensate for both the bright light and the dark shadows, but they can easily be tricked around this if you find yourself in this situation. Always choose this shaded area if possible. So you want to kind of trick your camera into thinking the shaded area is how it is everywhere. Frame your camera to only capture the shaded area so it doesn't get confused with two different strengths of light being visible. If you can't find shade on a super bright day, use the umbrella that I suggested you bring. It's not going to be easy trying to take a picture and hold an umbrella, but if you have no other option, it's a tool you can use. Using your camera's flash can also help in a bad light setting, even on a bright sunny day. The flash from your camera can help smooth out any harsh shadows on a face or help fill in light in a shaded area. The built-in flash on your camera will work just fine, but make sure you're a good distance away from your subject because even the flash on that camera can create really hard lights and shadows. This is why I recommend an external mounted flash because they can normally create a softer light. But if you don't have any, you can still use your camera's flash. Reflectors are another useful tool you can use to help direct and control the lighting around you. A reflector helps redirect light towards your subject. If you aren't sure what I'm talking about, it looks like a giant car shade in my opinion. If you don't have one, you can always buy a foam poster board at any craft store, and the bright white from the poster board will give you some light to play around with. In the picture I have here, the family wanted a photo in front of their barn, but because of the way the sun was setting, it was in direct sunlight, and it created awful shadows on their faces, and it just wasn't very appealing. So I had to move them closer to me and away from the barn so that I could evenly have their faces lit, but we still get the barn in the background, and the light hitting the barn actually makes for a very interesting photograph. You have so many options when you're taking pictures outside. Even your backyard could potentially be a good place to capture some photographs. What you need to consider are your surroundings, the crowd, and if you are even allowed to take photos at the location you've chosen. For your surroundings, you want to consider what the background of your images will look like. As soon as you arrive, look around and see if there are any unpleasant or distracting background items, such as trash cans, ugly buildings, telephone poles and wires, anything that you don't like. If your children are still small, you want to get down to their level and look around as well. When you take eye-level pictures of them, you'll have to consider the background at their level too. Sometimes simply changing your point of view can fix any unwanted background problems. While you may be dying to take photos of your kids at the new park that just opened, consider how crowded it might be. I love going to the Dallas Arboretum for pictures, but I know during the spring and summer, and especially on weekends, it gets overcrowded. It can be frustrating trying to keep your child's attention and work in shots between the passing by of other people. Pick a place that is more quiet and less crowded. Granted, maybe you want to have a fun day of your child on the playground. That might mean other kids running around, which is fine, but just remember, if your child is playing with another child, you'll have to ask their mother's permission to photograph them with yours. My last point on location is pretty simple. Some places don't allow for photographs to be taken. It might be private property, or the public property might just have certain restrictions. So it's good to know ahead of time if you're allowed to take photos at your location or not. Most places, though, will allow for personal use photographs, so you should be fine. When you arrive, and if you have a DSLR camera, go ahead and start figuring out which shutter speed, aperture, and ISO will be best for your time. I recommend doing this first so you don't miss any moments because your camera wasn't set and ready. I hate the feeling when I see that I forgot to correct my settings and ended up with just a bright white image. Yes, it still happens to me. I'm forgetful. If you're using a point-and-shoot camera, they normally have a preset setting you can work with, such as outdoor or children or fast motion. I'm not sure what else there is, but it's on there. If you don't know where to begin with your camera settings, let me quickly explain to you how ISO, shutter speed, and aperture all work together. So I learned this explanation in high school about 10 years ago, but it's always been the simplest and easiest to understand, so I'm going to head and go with it. Imagine a bucket of water out in the rain. You can't control the rain. You can't control how fast the rain is falling or how much rain is falling, but you can control the amount of water that you get in your bucket. This is true with your camera sensor. Your camera sensor is capturing the exposure, the amount of light that's coming into it, and that's how it captures the image. You can control exposure with your ISO, your shutter speed, and your aperture all working together. In the same manner with the bucket, you can control how wide your bucket is, how long you leave it out in the rain, and the quantity of rain for your bucket. So essentially that's time, quantity, and width. Shutter speed would equal your time, how long you keep your shutter open to capture your image. The longer it's open, the more amount of light you're letting in. Width of a bucket would represent the aperture. It's the area which your light can enter your camera. The wider your aperture, the smaller the f-stop number. And your ISO speed is the sensitivity of your camera sensor to the light that's hitting it. The higher your ISO, the more noisy of a picture it will be. It'll look kind of grainy the more and more higher you go with your ISO. So for outdoors, you probably want to keep your ISO at the lowest number possible because you're outside and there's so much light normally. You don't really need a high ISO. So maybe like 100 or 200 to start with. Sometimes I like to shoot at 400. If you have kids running around, I'd probably maybe keep it at 400, 800, I'm not sure. Play around with it a little bit and you'll figure out what works best. You would only need ISO to be a much higher number if it was a low lighting setting. There is so much more information and detail that I can give on ISO, shutter speed, aperture, but right now we have to move forward. As I mentioned earlier, when you are taking a picture of your child, especially if they're small, get down to their level so that your eyes meet. It creates for a beautiful connection in the photograph. When you're standing above them and they have to look up at you, it makes them look small and not as important. The perspective is also neat because you're seeing the world at their level. You don't always have to have them looking at the camera, as my example here on this slide. This little boy, he's not looking at the camera at all. He's playing with grass in his hand. And it's just so cute because he's just interacting with the world and he's having that special moment that I can capture. He doesn't always have to look directly at me. Especially with children, sometimes the best photographs are candid shots where you aren't posing them, they're just doing their thing and you're capturing those precious memories. If you joined us late, don't worry. As long as you signed up for the webinar, there will be an email sent to you with a link to the replay. Even if you did get to watch the whole thing, I know I can talk kind of quickly sometimes, so it's good to go ahead and go back and start and stop it at any point for you to be able to take notes. There's so much information to share with you that you can use to improve your skills and become a better photographer for your family. That is why I created Capturing the Milestones. It's an online course and membership website where you will learn in detail the 3 keys to taking stunning images of your children. Let me share with you real quick a video that goes into detail about what Capturing the Milestones is. And then we can have a little time if you have any questions that I can answer.
Want quality images of your children, but don't have the budget to hire a professional photographer? There is a time and a place to hire a professional, but there are also times where you are the only one around to capture their milestones. Just because you aren't an advanced photographer doesn't mean you can't take beautiful pictures of your children. All you need are the right tools, training, and inspiration to start taking stunning images. Capturing the Milestones, the 3 keys to taking stunning images of your children, was created for this very reason, helping moms understand their cameras better, learn photography skills, and collect those precious memories in a creative way. So what is Capturing the Milestones? It's an online course for beginner photographers, as well as a membership website with over 15 lessons covering the 3 foundational keys to capturing images of children. Each lesson is accompanied by assignment ideas to help you practice what you've learned. You have the flexibility to learn at your own pace, and as a member, you have lifetime access to all of these lessons, as well as PDF summaries of each lesson to print and take notes with. You'll be learning the 3 keys to taking stunning images of your children, equipping yourself, finding your style, and taking action. We'll show you how to equip yourself by teaching you about exposure, lighting, and perspective. We'll also have an equipment overview where you will learn your DSLR's basic functions, including the ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. We'll build your confidence with your camera and help you stop using auto and start creating beautiful, quality images. In the second key, finding your style, you'll learn different artistic approaches, posing and candid shots, photographing during events such as birthday parties, and we will give you many session ideas to help you highlight those precious milestones in creative ways. In the third and final key, taking action, we will help you put together a game plan for your photo adventures. We'll show you how to set and keep a positive mood, find the perfect outdoor locations and props, tips on outfits and accessories, and editing techniques. Because we are so passionate about helping moms keep their family memories safe, we have added 5 special bonuses to show how much we want you to succeed. We're including 5 extra lessons to our online course, access to a members-only Facebook community where you can share ideas, critique images, and participate in contests. Join our once-monthly question and answer session with Kara from K. Thomas Photography. Access to great deals and discounts through professional vendors. Anything photography related. Monthly newsletters with tips, stories, and new ideas for your children's photos. So what are you waiting for? Start taking stunning images of your children today.